Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Speaking of Sexuality. Let's all take a breath, shall we? Just inviting you to have a little moment with yourself as you arrive here. Whether you're joining this live or tapping into this on the recording, just knowing that we're creating a little container here together, a little container through space and time to receive and share in this work together and to learn together and to contribute together. Even if you're watching this on the recording, like it's so palpable when we come together to do this work. So just to have a little moment to arrive, to check in. How's your body feeling? How are you arriving? How is your heart? How are your genitals? How's your sexuality feeling in this moment? I think so often we go through life and we forget to check in with, especially with our lower regions, our lower centers, our hips, our thighs, our genitals, our lower belly, you know. So just welcoming that in as part of this experience today, if it feels okay for you to do so. Having a little shake, wriggling your body. Whoa, we're alive. Whoa, we're all alive. Ah, isn't that crazy? What a crazy time to be alive as well. Okay, so welcome everyone, especially welcome to those of you who are new here because wow, what a joy. It's always nice to reach and contact the people that I've never seen and met before. So you're really welcome here. Yeah, so welcome to Speaking of Sexuality. My name's Ria Hope and I am a sexuality and intimacy educator, energy worker, conscious kink practitioner, basically just a devotee of sexual energy in all of its beautiful forms. And I work very closely with the earth and how our relationship with the earth can support us to come back into connection with our natural sense of sexuality. And by natural, I mean like that we're all born here and we all contain sexual energy. We come from it, we create from it, we move from it. And it's such a beautiful and often misunderstood and misrepresented part of the human experience. And I think that our relationship with nature can really help us to reintegrate sexual energy into our lives so that we can come back into connection with not only ourselves, but the world around us, which I feel like now more than ever, we need human beings who are deeply connected, actually, to the world, to themselves, to their bodies, to pleasure, so that we can start to create new worlds. And sexual energy really is the modality of how we can do this, right? It's our creative capacity. So, I've been doing this work for almost 9 years now, which is crazy because, like, wow, what an initiation it is. And basically, these talks are an opportunity for us to come together and talk about and learn about topics that we might not get to learn about in our everyday lives. Not everybody has friends or spaces or communities where sexuality is a topic that is openly spoken about, especially again in the world that we live in where sexuality is so heavily conditioned. So every other Sunday, I come on here and start yapping about different topics surrounding sexuality and relating and like healthy relationships and the earth and how we can use our sexual liberation to support the liberation of all the beings and the creatures on this earth too. So, welcome. And Hmm. Today, we're talking about how to touch your lover, especially if your lover is you. Now, I think I've already done a couple of these on self-pleasure because it really is a topic that I really love, and there's just so many ways to approach the topic of self-pleasure. And the other morning, when I was thinking about this talk, I woke up and I was like, Let's talk about touch. Let's go into the details and the structures and the formats and the context within which we learn touch. Because pleasure is so connected to touch and it's so connected to our ability to slow down enough and actually tune into how it feels to actually touch something, someone, ourselves, our bodies, the leaf on a tree. And there is mad amount of psychedelic pleasure that can come when we slow down and really start tuning into touch. You know, when we think about like the classical like tantric philosophy, it's that everything in the world, everything in the earth, everything that exists is a pathway back to the divine. And we can really approach touch with the same foundation, really the same format. That when we're able to really tap into our sense of touch, it opens up a space and a pathway to something that's so magical and mystical. And why I think this topic is so important is because when we're touching ourselves and when we're touching lovers, so rarely are we actually feeling the touch. Like, so rarely are we actually really slowing down enough to actually feel the sensation on the skin. And I think that it's because we live in a world where our touch is so fast paced. I mean, everything is so fast paced, right? We're taught to live very fast paced lives and do things very fast. And sex is absolutely part of that as well. You know, we're taught to rush towards the orgasm, think about the sexiest thing we can think about. So we feel the most erotic feelings as quickly as possible and we get it over and done with. I often see this in sex a lot. It's like, we're rushing towards something. It's like, don't you want this to last as long as possible? Don't you want to enjoy all of the delights that interaction and pleasure and sensation has to offer? It's almost like our nervous systems aren't wired to hold the pleasure. It's like, quick, just get it done. Oh, quick, have the orgasm. You know? And actually, I feel like what we do when we do this work with sexuality is we're reconditioning ourselves on every single level. We're reconditioning our brain, we're reconditioning our body, we're reconditioning our relationship to sexuality, sexual energy. And yeah, it takes presence and it takes patience. And I think that good touch requires the same. It really requires us to slow down and decondition and pare back what we think we have learned about sexuality and to take sexuality and pleasure out of the little box that we squash it so squishily into because of conditioning and because of shame or patterns or beliefs that we've inherited. And so much of this work is about understanding what beliefs we have around touch and sexuality and how do we almost like give the ones that aren't helpful back to wherever we learned them because we don't come into this world ashamed of our sexuality. We don't come into this world feeling like inefficient or like, it's not quite the right word, but not good enough in some way in our sexuality, in our bodies, in our capacity to connect. Like, as human beings, we are made to connect. We are brought here to connect. It is inherent to being a human being that we want this connection. And somehow in sex, it's like, oh, I have to get it right. I have to do the right tools and tricks to be good at sex. And it's like, good sex is about presence. Good sex is about the capacity that we have to be in connection with what we're feeling and with the other person. And for sure, there's tools and skills that we need to learn to be able to do that, and we're not taught them. So then we go around with these stories of like, I'm not good at this, or how to be good at sex, and thinking that it's some sort of like mad tongue trick or some crazy finger movement or whatever. And it's like, yes, okay, that can be very useful, but everybody is so different. Everyone's body is so different that the type of touch that one person likes is absolutely not the touch that the next person might like. So rather about there being this one touch or one sex wins all, which is often what we're taught because we learn a lot through porn, It's much more about coming back into connection of like how do I make a connection with this person? How do I make a connection with my body when I'm touching myself to create a relationship where intimacy can happen? It's a beautiful thing and it requires practice. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Already can just feel this, the doors are opening. So before we get any further into this, what I like to say before we really get started with these talks is like there's such an invitation here to really look after yourself. Like move around as you need to. Like stretch when you need to. You can have your cameras on or off if you're here live. If you need to take a break, if there's topics that feel like a bit touchy or sensitive, or you notice that you get activated, like just mute the computer, take a few breaths, go outside, do something that you feel grounds you, and return if you want to, and you don't have to, you know? It's like these are big topics, and we can touch on lots of different parts of our experience. So do look after yourself. Hmm. Gorgeous. So let's start with a little practice. That feels nice. Just a little reflection practice. So just an invitation to close your eyes, or you can just lower your gaze, or whatever helps you and supports you to turn inwards. Mm. And again, just taking some deeper breaths. Noticing how it feels to turn your attention inwards. What is your inner landscape feeling like today? Like the inside of your body, of your mind? Can you sense your heart? Can you sense your genitals, your sacral center? Mm. You're welcome to just place your hand on your sacrum or your pubic bone if that feels comfortable for you. Connecting your heart with your sacral, with your genitals. Even using your breath, like using your breath on the exhale to just bring your attention down into your body. Even as we're doing this talk and we're thinking using our brains, like how much can we really include the body in that process? So often in sex and intimacy, all of our energy can rush up towards our brain, into our heads, overthinking or fantasizing. So with the exhale, just seeing if you can bring your attention down. How does it feel? We have so much physical capacity in our lower centers. But you think about your hips and your thighs and your bum cheeks, there's so much strength there compared to, say, your neck or your head, which is quite a small part of your body compared to your hips and your thighs. Just even becoming aware, like where is my sexual energy today? Where is my sexuality in my body right now? Just asking your body and seeing what arises. Love this question. If you want to be tapping into your sexuality on a daily basis, you can just tune in and do this practice and ask your body, where is my sexual energy today? How does it feel? How does it appear? Hmm. And just a little invitation now for reflection. Just want you to think about the last time you were touching your body. Just whatever comes to mind. It could have been in self-pleasure or masturbation. It could have been when you were moisturizing or in the bath. Like how, when you reflect on this, like how connected were you to what you were actually doing? Like, how present were you with your body, with your touch? Like, especially if you think about the last time you were masturbating or self-pleasuring, like, what does that look like for you? Is it functional? Is it quick? Is it luxurious and drawn out? Is it a space where you feel like you actually connect with your body? And seeing if you can recall a time where you did feel really connected to touching your body. Maybe you can think of one, maybe you can't. Maybe that's not an experience that you feel like you've had. That's also okay. But seeing if you can find a time in your life where you have touched your body and felt really connected to what you were doing and how it was feeling. To noticing any emotions that arise, maybe some grief, maybe some arousal. Mm. And thinking now about the last time you were with a lover or engaging in intimate touch with another. Can you recall how connected you felt to the actual touch? Where was your energy? Where was your presence? Where was your attention? Let's say that's a better word. Where was your attention when you were doing the touching? Mm. Did you feel like you were in your head? Did you feel present with their body? Like what? Can you remember what the sort of thoughts or feelings were that you were having? Did it feel like you were trying to get somewhere or do something? Did it feel quite spacious? Were you worried or anxious about something? Or were you feeling really connected to what you were doing, to the touch, to the space? And can you recall a time that you were with a lover or a partner and when you felt really connected, like really present, really connected to the touch, really in the flow? How did that feel? What do you think allowed you to feel so present? And again, just noticing any emotions. Mm, mm. And taking a few deep breaths. And even now, as we Let those reflections just float away. Even now, if you want to and it feels okay to, you can bring your hands to your body. So can you just tune in for a minute to your hand touching your body? You can even just touch hand to hand. You can touch your shoulders, just wherever feels good. I often find my heart, my sacral, such a beautiful place, touching my face. Just holding there, feeling how it feels for your hand to touch your body, feeling how it feels for your body to come up and touch your hand. Just having this moment with yourself, just tuning in. You're not trying to get anything out of your body, you're not trying to get anywhere. So often when we approach our bodies, it's because we want something from them. How often do we just tune in to say, hello, I'm here with you. I'm just here to be with you, to feel you. Don't need anything from you. Hmm, beautiful. And in your own time and when you're ready, just allowing yourself to blink your eyes open. And if you're here live, if there's any reflections that you'd like to share, feel free to write them in the chat. You can also journal. Like, what did you notice? What did you notice doing that practice? How did it feel to reflect? Does it feel different when you're touching yourself to when you're touching a lover or a partner? Do you find it easier to touch a lover, harder to touch yourself, or harder to touch a lover and easier to touch yourself? Hmm. Yeah, grief. Grief is a big one, right? Our body is like, they're here all the time, our bodies, constantly holding us, constantly keeping us alive with like this unconditional life force that they're just really trying to pour into us. And it's challenging, to grow up in a world that doesn't value us connecting to our bodies. Hmm. Yeah, people saying it's a complex journey, fear, grief, desire, and hope. Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious if anyone's feeling the grief, like what does it feel like the grief is sort of touching upon? Like, is it a specific kind of grief, like grief for something in particular, or just a sense of grief more generally? Hmm. Okay. So, yeah. Also, I'm curious if anyone found it really yummy. Like, were you thinking about a time when you were touching a lover and it was like, yum? Wow, what helps you feel connected? What supports us in those moments where we're able to get out of out of the mind and into the body and to feel really present with what we're doing in the touch? Yeah, beautiful. Happy memories, safety and openness, gorgeous. Someone said about the grief, having a disconnection from their body and seeing them as a lover that deserves my attention, and I haven't been able to offer that care and love to them. Absolutely. Absolutely. God, it's such an important thing, and it can be so complex for so many of us. And we're going to talk about that. Like, why is it so? Why can it be so complicated for us to build a relationship with our bodies in the world that we live in?
Scusami, devo...
Someone is unmuted. Who's unmuted? Anyway, okay. Yeah, not having the education, and that is so true. Let's really begin there. So we live in a world that's very conditioned. I said this earlier, but like especially where sex, sexuality, intimacy, arousal, like self-pleasure, self-touch, our relationship with our bodies is like super conditioned. Most of us were conditioned that sex was like wrong, shameful, like harmful, like embarrassing, something that we shouldn't talk about. And most of us were given very poor education, like from the adults around us, from society, from school, not only from like the teachers, right? But also like in the social groups that we're in. It's like we were really reflecting the harmful. Kids are like sponges, we're absorbing the harmful things that we're seeing in society and we're replicating them within our social group. So high school, especially for those of us who are queer, it's like queer sexuality, like it's such a complex field to navigate at that age. And it's also like such an important time in our experience of sexuality when we're coming into relationship with our sexuality for the first time. So we're not given very good education. We grow up in these pretty toxic environments generally around sexuality. And then there's this expectation that we have to know how to be good at sex, how to be good lovers suddenly when we start having sex. And if we're not good lovers, then there could be social repercussions, or someone could talk about it, or there's this whole pressure of like needing to be good at something to be socially accepted. Or not. It's so complicated. Our relationship with sexuality in our earlier years is so complex most of the time. And not only then do we have this pressure to be good at touching, good at sex, good at this or that, or alternatively, like to not talk about sex or to be really chaste and like, it's like this very complex relationship that we can have with sexuality. And also, I think, especially in high school, this has got such a gendered aspect to it, especially as we're moving through life, actually. The expectations and pressures that we have on sex can be so gendered, including like the pressure to have like good genitals, like the right genitals, like, or to have a big cock, or to have the right sized labia, all of these things of like what is seen as normal, and so much of this which comes through our relationship with porn, which also conditions our relationship with our body. And I'm saying all of this in relation to touch because these are the things that can really disconnect us from feeling in touch with our bodies because we're taught to perceive our bodies from the outside in. What is someone else going to think of this? How is this going to be digested by somebody else? And what implications might that have? So, all of the ways that we're conditioned, the shame and the stories, and all of these things that we experience in our early years actually disconnect us from being in our bodies, from learning how it actually feels outside of even the eyes. Or I'm not just looking at it and thinking, this is how I'm going to judge it. Which is also how we operate in sex. It's like I'm going on like how are they responding or how do I think that they're enjoying this rather than how is this feeling right now. So, we grow up with porn as education, most people. Like it's very heavily produced, it's very male gaze orientated, and it's very fast, it's very orgasm centered. Like we're rushing towards penetration. There's no conversation, there's very little intimacy, there's no pauses, there's no real life stuff in that, there's no messiness, right? No moments of breathing together, no pauses. And at the same time, like orgasms are often faked a lot. Well, the whole thing is like it's a performance, of course. So we grow up digesting this fake idea of what sex and touch should look like, and then we try and mirror it. And because no one gives us an alternative, often this is just what we carry into our adult lives. And to talk about the sort of gendered aspect of it, it's like men and people socialized as men are taught that sex is about taking, like aggression, penetration, performance, like staying hard, not coming too soon, like looking like, okay, I know what I'm doing, I'm gonna take the lead. And women and people socialized as women are more often taught that their pleasure doesn't really matter, actually, and it isn't centered. And it's taught about pleasing and going at the pace of whatever the other person is offered or being sexualized in some way. And I think that even for those of us who are queer and have like completely different frameworks of sexuality that don't have these gendered aspects, I think that it can still creep in. I think that we're still living in a world where these are the things that we grow up absorbing. So it's good to even like peel back the layers of like where are these ideals or where are these beliefs like coming into my capacity to connect with the people around me, especially in sex. So when we think about like how to touch your lover, that's a bit of the context, of why it can be challenging to do this. But when we think about how to touch your lover, you know, I really think that one of the most important things is pace. Like to have a moment before you start engaging in sex or intimacy to just like connect. For those of you who meditate or do like movement practices or something, like have a little moment. Oh, okay, tuning in to the inside of me. Okay, what's going on? How do I feel today? There's a beautiful practice called Waking the Hands by Betty Martin. Can I wake up my hands? Can I touch an object for a minute? Can I just, because when we think about touching, right, it's like that the hands are the extension of the heart chakra, this beautiful energy center, this expansive capacity that we have to connect. Our arms are an extension of this. So when we're touching our lover, this idea of slowness is beautiful because we can start to bring in this heart energy, right? Even if, I always say this, like, even if we're having just one night stands and we're just, we're hooking up with randomers, fine, totally fine. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be beautiful and present and like from the heart and an opportunity to connect intimately with someone. Like, we can bring in all of these tools, whether we're in long-term relationships or whether we're just having hookups. Why not bring the heart in? Why not make it a beautiful, intimate interaction? Even if it's just about the fire of it. Like, still be connected, enjoy it as much as you can. And I think that having this capacity to bring the heart in is a beautiful way to do that. So, what else feels important to caveat here is like also when we're thinking about touch, so often we're going along this intimacy escalator of like, okay, the script. We're going to do a bit of kissing, there's a little bit of foreplay, and then we're going to go towards the final thing. Now, for those of us who are having queer sex, this often doesn't necessarily need to be the case because we all know, well, we don't all know, but like lesbian sex, great. Like 7, 8, 9 hours, honey, the sun is rising. Whose go is it next? There's a capacity to step out of this, which is out of this script, this sexual script that we're taught. And I think this is why queer sex and queer existences in general have this beautiful capacity to disrupt the systems, I guess that is queer existence by nature, that we're taught about in sexuality. So oftentimes the script is like, yeah, it's like what we see on films. We're gonna kiss, we're gonna have a little bit of foreplay, then we're gonna move towards penetration, and penetration is the final thing. Then we're gonna come, and then it's gonna be over. And that has its function. Don't get me wrong, like great, that's beautiful. But if that's what you're doing every time because you're stuck in a script that that's what you think you have to do, then you're missing out on the capacity to be in connection with yourself. What do I actually want? This is the question that I would invite you to come back to again and again, whether you're touching yourself or touching someone else. What does my body actually want to do right now? Not what do I think I need to do? Not what do I think is next in the list? What do I actually want? Because when we think about touch and quality of touch, this is how we start to touch well, because we're touching from a place of authentic desire, or we're being touched from a place of authentic desire. This is what I actually want. So can you do this for me? And this idea of rushing towards the genitals, like, great, the genitals are amazing. Big up the genitals. But the whole body is a landscape where pleasure is available. And I think that when we talk about deconditioning sexuality and we think about taking it out of the box, I think that taking this idea of erotic energy and allowing it to move across the whole body is going to benefit your life in so many ways, not just in the bedroom, but in all of the ways. If you can get erotic pleasure from like just touching your throat and really allowing yourself to just go into it, touching your the top of your arm, touch, some places will be more sensitive. We have our erogenous zones. I love that the elbow crease is an erogenous zone, by the way. Get it? But this is also part of what it is to touch a lover well, is to start to touch yourself well and understand what it is that you like. To allow yourself time and energy. And for those of you who haven't watched my self-pleasure talk on YouTube, please do that. All on there. We go more into this because I really could talk about this forever. Um, but to allow that pleasure to expand across the body. When you're touching a lover, not rushing towards the genitals, not being like, okay, I want to make you feel the most pleasure as quickly as possible. It's like, wow, what if I could bring the essence of devotion into my touch? We think back to the heart. What if I am touching you with devotion? Oh, what if I am touching you as a little slice of God? Take God out of the thing if God doesn't work for you. A little slice of the divine, of nature. What if I'm touching you with love rather than, "Rawr, I want to get something out of you." It's fine to like want to make your partner feel loads of pleasure. Great. But does it always have to be so like, okay, to the genitals, rub the clitoris, let's get this orgasm done and dusted? What if you could let yourself savor the experience? So many things to say on this. I think this every week. This is why we're doing this, right? Because there is so much to say. I'm jumping around a little bit, but when we think about touch as a devotional practice, like really, I think that having lots of spaciousness around touch is a really beautiful way to engage with it. Like, what's the rush? Where are you trying to, you just want it to be over? Like, can you really tap into how the touch feels? And I think this sort of brings me on to a beautiful and very comprehensive tool called the Wheel of Consent, which is by a woman called Betty Martin, who is a pioneer in the field of sexuality. And why I'm just caveating this is because sometimes it's really good to think about who the touch is for. Am I touching you for my pleasure or am I touching you for your pleasure? Am I touching your boobs because, oh my God, they just feel amazing and I am enjoying them so much? That's for me. Or am I being like, wow, it would feel so amazing for you. Like you really love it when your boobs are touched. So I'm going to be in service with you and I'm going to touch your boobs because you're going to really love it. Of course, there's always a little bit of, both. Hopefully lots of both. But it's good to have this intention sometimes behind the touch. Like, are you touching for your pleasure or theirs? And I'm sure we've all been and it's good to bring awareness to this because I'm sure we've all been in a situation. Well, maybe not. I've definitely been in many situations where someone's been touching me And it's been for me, like you're touching me because you're giving me pleasure. And then all of a sudden something's changed and I'm like, this is for you now. Now this is for your pleasure. And actually, I don't feel like you're quite tuning into whether I'm enjoying this anymore. You're just getting lost in it. And actually, I find that quite jarring. It's like, whoa, you're with me and now you're with yourself. And that's okay, but let's name it. Let's, this is probably the most important part of this talk. Communication. Communication underlies the whole of this, right? We can slow down, we can move from the heart, but we need to learn how to communicate with one another about the touch that we're giving. Because so often, why we come into our heads when we're touching lovers, why this energy comes up is because we're thinking about, are they enjoying this? Am I enjoying this? Is this the right thing to do? Is this the right pace? Is this too hard? Is this too soft? Are they enjoying this? And all we need to do is develop our capacity to communicate and be able to ask the people, how does this feel for you? What would you like to feel? Especially if you're getting stuck in your head. Are they liking this? Is this too fast? Is this too slow? Is this too deep? How's this feeling for you? What would make it even better? There's a good one. What would make this even better? And as I was saying with the who is this touch for, let them know, hey, I would really love to touch your boobs and I just really want to get in there and just enjoy that. Like how would you feel about that? Like could I touch your boobs for my pleasure? Right? We get down to the nitty-gritty of like what's going on and we allow ourselves to build our capacity to talk about it. Why is it that we just think in sex we need to just be like mute? That it will ruin it in some way if we're talking about it. No, we have to talk about it. What helps me with this one is establishing communication beforehand. To say to someone before I have sex with them, hey, I really like to check in throughout. Like, don't be surprised if I'm asking you questions. I want to know how it feels to be in your body. I want to know what you like, especially if you're with new lovers. Like, God, you don't know anything about them. This is why when we're first with lovers, it can often be awkward and clumsy and fumbly and not so pleasurable because it's like, I don't know you yet. I don't know your body and you don't know mine. So the first few times we're going to have sex, we're going to have to get to know each other. And communication is a great way to understand this, like how to touch your lover. Ask them how they want to be touched. And it can be quite confronting for people because they're like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, well, great. Let's explore together. How does this feel? How does that feel? And it breaks the illusion that it has to be this like smooth, seamless thing from start to finish where we're just like being so sexy and cool the whole time and we just know exactly what to do with each other's bodies. It's like sometimes that happens. But more often than not, it's the communication that allows us to get to that point. Yeah, and someone said a lot of lovers and people I meet feel awkward about being so direct and forward with verbal communication because there is a lack of education about how sexy communication can be. Truth. Which is why I always like to do a bit of scoping out beforehand. Like how much capacity do you have to be with my body and my needs and my communication and vice versa? And there's so much space for it to be awkward. Yeah, it is awkward. It can be awkward. And that's also okay. Like we have to let it be awkward sometimes. We have to expand our capacity to feel discomfort, especially in these sorts of situations, because we're all like trying to heal our relationship with sexuality, where generally in the world that's not what's happening right now. So, something else I love, which is also a great one, like, can you show me how you like to be touched? Oh, this is so sexy and also can be quite confronting for people. Show me on your body, how do you touch yourself? Oh, I'm feeling aroused even thinking about that right now. That's so sexy. Like, oh my God, let me watch you for a moment. You show me. Like, do you like to be gentle when you touch yourself? Are you liking to go a bit rough? Like, great, guide me, show me. That's so something so yummy about that. Communication as part of the erotic flow. I learned this a lot in Conscious Kink. You have to learn how to weave it in. It doesn't have to be this like stop start thing. And this just takes practice. It takes practice, practice, years and years of practice. And this is what we're here for, right? This is why I assume you're all here wanting to learn more about this because it is a tool and skill that we have to practice and learn so that we can become good and beautiful lovers for ourselves and the people that we connect with. There's also something very empowering about it. For me, it's like the moment that I'm feeling stuck in my head when I'm touching someone else, I'm like, I know that I need to communicate. What am I holding on to here that we could just bring into connection together? And hopefully that builds intimacy, not shatters it. And even if we ask the question and we say, what do you like? And they freak out and they don't know and they feel really awkward and it has to stop. Well, I say better that than having a half, having a disconnected sense of intimacy where we're just pretending that we know what we're doing or we're following some sort of script because we're trying to just have an orgasm. I think for me personally, I'd rather that it brought up some emotions for them and they were like, this is so uncomfortable for me and I feel so challenged by how much I don't know what I want. Well, let's just sit with that. Yes, it might be a bit disappointing for the parts of me that wanted a sexy, saucy night, but I'd rather be with what's true than forcing something that's not. And I think that's probably the pinnacle of all of the touch. It's like I'd rather be with what's genuinely here than forcing or pushing or striving or trying to get something that's overriding what I actually want. Because my brain is like, orgasm, right? Of course, orgasms are delicious. The brain is wired to want the things that are the most delicious. And we don't learn that there's another way to deliciousness through the slowness and the pacing of the body and connecting in this more slower way. So, wow, how does the time go so fast? I can literally yap, yap, yap. Is this making sense to people? How is this landing? Like, tell me in the chat, please. I need to know what's landing. What are you thinking? Like, how is this feeling? Who's got questions? What do you struggle with? Mm. Someone said I'm deeply touched. Oh, beautiful. Very apt for a talk on touching. Oh, great question. What are your thoughts about practicing this with a non-sexual partner? Too messy? No. In every way, this is perfect to practice with friends. Please. Almost okay. I'll just talk about some of the tools that I was gonna. Please feel free, people, to send. Please write in the chat. I really want to hear from you. Um, Practicing with friends with intimacy and touch is probably one of the most important key skills that I would say will support you to do this. Sex gets so complex. It's actually so messy to bring sex into the picture because our brain chemicals go nuts. And all of the conditioning that we were talking about earlier kicks in. Do I look okay? Am I doing it right? Is this person going to like me? Do I have to impress them in some way? You know, if people socialize as men, there's like a lot of performance anxiety. Am I going to stay hard for long enough? And all of this stuff, which again just disconnects us actually from the body and how we're actually feeling. I think taking sex off the cards, even with sexual partners, is such a nice way to practice this. Here's a little tool for you. called the 3 Minute Game, which also was a Betty Martin. Betty Martin's a legend. Have a look at her work. She's got a lot of stuff on YouTube, a lot of classes. Can get a bit technical, but once you get your head around it, it's a really beautiful tool to use that really helps you to understand intimacy and touch a lot more. So the 3 Minute Game is very simple, and you can do this with your friends. It is with anyone. And you set a timer for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, however long you want to do it. And first, one person receives touch, right? So let's say it was me and you were touching me, you audience. And I would think about, okay, what do I want to receive? Okay, what would make me feel really good? Okay, I would really love for you to just kiss my neck and pull my hair a bit. Okay, so will you touch me like that? 3 minutes, they can decide yes or no. Obviously, boundaries are important for everybody involved. Um, they say yes, then we do that for 3 minutes. Great. Timer goes off. Wonderful. Generally quite low risk because if we're doing something that we don't want and we don't feel like we can say no, it's only 3 minutes. Like, I don't like that anymore. Of course, you can stop at any time. Then you think about how would I like to touch this other person? What would bring me pleasure for touching them? Okay, I'm going to look at their body. I'm going to think, okay, what would actually bring me pleasure? I would really love to squeeze your upper arms. Mm. Yeah. And you do it for 3 minutes. And then you swap. What would they like to receive? Then how would they like to touch you? This is a great way to start tuning into touch, sensation, and the body. With anyone, please do it with your friends. If you've got friends who's going to do this with you, do it. Oftentimes, it's so much easier to practice in those settings that aren't super erotically charged. And I would say this as well with like touching your own self. Take it out of the idea that this needs to be the most erotic thing that you've ever experienced in your whole life. Like, don't just wait until you're like gagging for an orgasm or like feeling so stressed. Imagine if a lover only came to you just because they wanted to have an orgasm or they just wanted to make you come because that would make them feel good. You'd be like, I want a bit more than that. I want your time and attention, love and care, actually, if you don't mind. So to give ourselves this in, you can do this practice with yourself. 3 minutes, touch one body part, slow down. I give this practice a lot to the clients that I work with. Okay, 3 times a week this week, I want you to set a 10-minute timer. Choose one body part. Put a nice song on, put some music on that you love, and just touch the body part. Squeeze it, scratch it, feel it, breathe on it, kiss it. How does it actually feel? Can you really allow yourself, like, oh, already I'm just like, oh my God, what a gift it is to just be able to feel that. Can we see it as a path to God? Can we see it as a modality of meditation? It's that you get distracted. Just bring yourself back to the practice. It's the beauty of touch-based practices. This idea of devotion, I think, is really key to this. So, hope that answers your question. Not too messy. Depends on the person that you're doing it with. If they're like madly in love with you and you're offering this non-sexual friendship touch, then it might get a bit messy, but like intentions are really important, right? What we're doing this for. I would say intentions generally are really important when we're thinking about touch. Touch, it really can be for so many things. Like it can be for soothing, it can be for love, it can be for stimulation, for connection, for depth, it can be for fire, it can be for emotional release. If we think about conscious kink, it's like touch can be for emotional release. Like, I'm gonna smack you on your chest to help you remember that you are loved. It doesn't always have to be like, ooh, but still to do it with presence. Okay. Another thing that really supports with touch and how to touch your lover is like using the elements. If you think I don't know different ways to touch or I don't know what I like, go to the elements. Earth touch, squeezing, grabbing, pressing, holding, pressure. Water touch, flowing, fluid motions, big sweeping motions across the body, little patters of rain. Wow. Fire, scratching, pinching, punching, biting. Air, like energy. Like, oh, that just that space just before you touch, just like the lightest touch. Some people hate this. I love it. Use the elements. Okay, so someone said, I struggle with knowing what I need, and I so far always was overriding this by going with what the other wanted. Yeah, who else is that? Who else here is a let's just go with what the other person wants to do? I struggle greatly in being seen in general and in intimacy, especially what would you recommend for being okay, in intimacy, especially what would you recommend for feeling safe in being seen and being able to become fully open and relaxed when connecting intimately? Gorgeous question. Gorgeous question. And I think we often need more than we think when it comes to like opening to intimacy. Like we can have sex with strangers. Some of us can do that. Let's see if I can. I'm newly single. But I think for the intimacy aspect and feeling safe to do that, it's like finding out what you need to feel safe. For me, it's like knowing that there's good communication, like having a capacity to know that they're going to respect my body. Like, what would it look like for me to find that out? Well, it's about having a lot of conversations beforehand. What does sex look like for you? I'm going to tell you about my boundaries. And I think this is so much where empowerment comes in. For us to know what we need to feel safe to connect with someone. Having the conversations, having the tools and skills. Please watch some of my other talks on YouTube because I'm sharing so many of these tools and skills on there about how to build safety in intimacy. Maybe we should do a whole talk on that. So I think that's one of them. It's like feeling out the ground. Like, how capable is this person to hold you? How do you know that when you say, I don't like that, they're not going to go, well, I feel so. What do you mean you don't like it? I feel really sad about it, And it's like, actually, it's okay if you feel upset that I said that I don't like it, but you can't be throwing a tantrum, It's like, you need to be able to take me sharing with you that I do or don't like things. And for me, it's just a lot of scoping out beforehand. Safety and intimacy. Can someone remind me? Can someone write that in the chat? Because I will do a talk on that. Another thing with that is the building of the confidence, is the practicing of not only communicating beforehand, but communicating in the moment, finding ways. Some of us go nonverbal when we're in intimacy. So how am I going to communicate with you if I need to take a pause? I'm going to tap you on the shoulder. In kink, sometimes we have like a little shaker or something, if you're tied up or you've got your mouth gagged or something, to have a shaker or something that I need to shake if I need to pause. Something like this. It depends on how well you know the person. But finding ways to say if you need to pause. Because I think these are the things that allow us then to become more open and relaxed when connecting intimately. When we know that we can communicate. So often what causes lack of safety and lack of intimacy is where we feel like we don't have the power or the control to say if something doesn't feel right. And then alongside this, what I was also thinking is that what I was also saying before is like this body awareness of knowing our body enough to even know what it needs. And so oftentimes, what we need is just a moment to feel into it. Sex, again, it's like so fast, so fast, so fast. Why can't we just say, I need to have a pause because I don't know how I feel right now, or something's happening that feels uncomfortable and I don't know what it is. So can we just take a pause? I always caveat this with lovers. The pause, the pause, the pause. The pause is life. Does that answer your question? And I think that a lot of this is like picking your partners, like pick your partners well, as well as you can pick them. Are you looking for partners who can actually go into this level of connection with you? That's what I'm looking for. I want people who also have the capacity to even try to do this stuff because it's not always easy. Well, it's not easy, you know. And I think that, just to also sort of come off the back of this, please do send questions now because we're moving into the Q&A part, so questions really welcome. Um, I live in the sticks. It's not easy finding lovers like that. I hear you. I hear you. And this is why good self-pleasure practice is great because also we remember that our creative energy is our sexual energy. So then, I think there's a sex educator called Laurie Handlers, and she says that when she orgasms, she just says, "I want 10,000 pounds." Because that creative energy that we're developing has the opportunity to tune us in to the quantum field, right? Which is where we can then start to create and manifest. Manifest is a bit of a cheesy word in the modern wellness scene, but start to call in and align with the life that we really want. So if there's partners that you're calling in, touch yourself like you want to be touched. Show the world this is what I'm looking for. Cultivate that feeling within you, and then it's so much easier to draw that towards you because you know what you're looking for on a cellular level. You know what you're looking for because you felt it. Like the most beautiful self-pleasure sessions I've ever had is when I'm just feeling so much love. It's just so much love. Even as I'm talking about it now, it's like I just feel this beautiful connection between my genitals and my heart. It's like, oh, how can we bring it back into this space of deep love, love for life, love for touch, love for connection? And then use that. This is what I'm looking for, world. Yeah, the standard's fucking high. Yeah. I want to be met. I want to be touched. I want to be loved. I want to be appreciated. I want to be respected. I want to be met. And the first thing I'm going to do is give myself those things. I say this every week. It takes commitment. You have to show up. Show up for yourself. Show up for yourself like you would a lover. Fall in love with yourself. And I think that when we think about this idea of like to be seen by another, especially when we're first dating or meeting people, it's terrifying. What are they going to think about me? What if they don't like my body? What if I've got my belly rolls? What if they don't like them? It's always a deep opportunity of reflection for like how much can we really love ourselves? I'm not saying this like, cheesy, like have a bubble bath or something. Like on a fundamental level, like I am a reflection of the divine. I am a little walking tree. I am meant to be here. My body is worthy of love. How can I decondition from the things that have told me that my body is something, that there's something wrong with it? Making peace with our bodies, which can be so complex for so many reasons, for those of you on gender journeys that might have genitals that don't feel like the ones that you were supposed to have. It's like I think that there's still an aspect of like, and this is what I might have now, right now, even if it doesn't feel like mine, but can I still see it as a little, like the trees? Can I still see this as something that is just part of my experience right now? We take the yogic lens to it. And I think that our capacity to be seen in that is again, is a practice. Because when we're being our authentic self, it's much easier to be seen because it's like, well, this is actually just who I am. So if you don't like it, then that's okay. Please help me swerve the people that are not meant for me. God. So, wow. The thing I love about these talks is like, God, we go to so many different places and it's really good practice for me. I'm a Virgo, and what I love about doing these talks is like I'm trying my best to just not follow a structure. It's like let's just open the channel and see what wants to come through. So thanks for being here for the journey, you know. And hopefully you've learned something along the way. I always come off the talks and be like, I have no idea what I just said. So hopefully something of worth. But anyway, let's do a little recap. How to touch your lover, especially if your lover is you. Love that someone just laughed on there. Thanks. Thank you so much for that little laugh. You know, I felt you there. Um, how to touch your lover, especially if your lover is you. Such a beautiful topic. So we spoke about slowing down, tuning in. YouTube, Betty Martin, waking the hands. This is a practice that I would really recommend. You choose an object, you touch it. It's so simple. Do that for 5 minutes. It will actually reawaken your capacity to feel in your hands. Like, not only just like, oh, we'll use our hands, it's like, let's actually resensitize them, like we should do with all of our bodies, especially our genitals, right? Let's resensitize the hands. Betty Martin, waking the hands. Beautiful practice. Slowing down, breathing, deconditioning ourselves from the stories that teach us that sex has to look, touch has to look in a certain way, in a certain format, and start to slow down again to tune in. Okay, what do I actually want to do here? Which then brings us into communication, learning how to communicate. What do you want? How does this feel? Is this too hard? Is this too slow? Could this be better in any way? The moment that you find yourself rushing into your head, pause. What's going on? Do you need something to be different? Are you worried that they're not liking it? Are you feeling self-conscious? Pause. Take a breath. What do you need? Thinking about the intentions for the touch. Who is this for? Am I touching you for my pleasure or am I touching you for your pleasure? Because also, so often, what can happen is both parties are trying to please the other person and no one's receiving the touch. So that's a really important one. And that brings me on to the 3 minute game. 3 minute game. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Will you touch me like this? Can I touch you like this? Can be platonic, can be spicy, can be sensual, whatever. And the final one is use the elements. It's a great one to explore. Use the elements. Think about earth touch, water touch, fire touch, air touch. Get creative with your touch. Use nature as the framework. Okay. Any final questions? Any final reflections? I know that you're there, so let me hear you. No, nothing. Everyone's feeling whole and complete. Well, oh, it's so nice to see you. I'm not going to say your name, but it's so nice to see you. Thank you, Ria. Appreciate what you're naming and sharing. Yeah, you're so welcome. Yes, this is a great one. Okay. How to move past boredom. Ah, yeah. Boredom with self, boredom with others. This is a good one. Let's finish on this. Okay. Are there any reason? Okay, we've got two questions here. Yeah, sorry, but that's so true. Isn't it so vulnerable to touch slowly? It's like, wow, I'm really going to actually be here with you. Wow, I'm actually really just going to feel you in this moment. So vulnerable, so exposing, especially with lovers. It's like, wow, really. This idea of devotion, I think, just brings it all back for me. It's like, wow, I am so blessed to be able to touch you. You are a divine slice of life, and I get to be here with you. What a gift. So someone's asked the question with self, how do you move past boredom? Beautiful, beautiful question. I always like to approach self-pleasure as a practice, as a meditation practice. Again, the moment that I notice that I'm getting bored or I'm getting distracted or I'm thinking about what to have for dinner or that argument I had with someone when I was in year 10, like I pause and I put my hand on my heart and I stop whatever I'm doing and I take a few breaths like you would in meditation and I bring myself back to the practice and I ask my body, what do you want now? What do you want now? What do you want now? How can I serve you now? What would feel good now? And then I do that. Or I try something. And then if that doesn't feel good or I notice myself getting distracted, I just pause and take a breath and I come back to it. It's not always the most erotically charged thing that I do, for sure. Sometimes my body is like, I just want you to caress my shoulder. And then might move towards the genitals, and then I'm like, I'm not feeling it anymore. Okay, where else? For me, what I find really sexy is the mouth. Like getting a bit feral with it, like get some spit going, getting my fingers in my mouth. That always feels really intimate for me, and so a real easy way for me to connect to my body and my erotic energy, much simpler than going towards the genitals, actually. Feel there's a real charge that can come with that. So find that thing for you that you find yummy. And again, when there's boredom, it's also thinking about, yeah, I'm here to do this. If there's boredom, what would be interesting? I've got this whole body to feel. Why don't I try slapping? Let's try some fire touch. Gonna maybe try some pinching. Ooh, wow, I'm alive. But see it as a practice. Set a timer for 30 minutes, and even if you're bored the whole fucking time, just stay for the 30 minutes and keep doing it. Eventually, you'll stop doing the things that you find boring and you'll start doing the things you find fun. Okay. Are there any resources you have come across I can give new lovers for helping them learn about queer/trans sex? The LGBT Foundation in Manchester has things called the sex guides. And when I worked there for many years doing sexual health, they were pretty good. They were pretty comprehensive, like not so much on the sort of like spiritual devotional path, but really quite useful, I would say. Maybe they've updated them now, but I think that if you ask them, they've got PDF versions of them. That's what immediately comes to mind. And I'll have a think about that. Um, because it is, yeah, I mean, everybody needs to learn about queer sex, please, God. Because it just offers the different framework that we step outside of the conditioning. We all really need this. So maybe send them my way. Send them the YouTube channel, let them watch a few things. And maybe we could do, the person who's asked this question, maybe we could do a whole talk on queer and trans sex and how and what that looks like and what lovers might feel beneficial from, new lovers. Maybe we could do that. Um, because it's a whole topic, right? But I'll think anymore if there's any specific resources. Okay, last one. How do you deal with different energies? One person wants depth and slowness, the other wants really energetic and fiery. Oh, this is a good one, isn't it? The first thing that comes to mind is to have separate times to be experiencing these things. Like if one person wants energetic and fiery and you're up for being in a supportive role for them to feel that. Like you want to feel energetic and fiery, I can meet you there. It might not be the most yummy thing for me, but if you want energetic and fiery, okay, let's find a time where we both feel like that's good. I want depth and slowness, so if you can meet me there and you want to, let's find a time for me to experience the depth and slowness. So potentially having two times to go into these things more explicitly. In the moment, I think that it's always if someone's just wanting to go energetic and fiery straight away and you're not feeling like you're able to meet them there, then they have to come to the level that you're willing to begin with. And I think that for anyone who's feeling super energetic and fiery, it's amazing to be able to channel that into slowness and to bring it into depth. And I think that it just requires the conversation. Because also, like, if they want the energetic and fiery, it's like, and they can't meet you in the depth and the slowness, then it's not going to work, right, in that moment. And you might need to pare it back and do the thing where you're able to meet each other separately. And vice versa. If you're feeling super slow and you need a lot of care and they're feeling energetic and fiery and they need you to meet them there because that's what they want right now and that's what they're bringing and that's just the energy that they're in, and you can't meet them there, then it's not going to work for that specific time because there has to be a meeting. So there's also this piece. I think it requires a conversation. You're feeling super energetic and fiery. I'm feeling really slow. Can we meet in the middle? Is there a space where we can both get these needs met, or are you able to come and meet me in this energetic frequency right now, or not? Because if not, then it's going to be very jarring for me if I want depth and slowness and you want to spank me. That's not going to work, right? And this is also a beautiful thing about this. Sometimes we just have to say, this is not compatible right now. What we want is just too different. Powerful stuff with a lot of agency interwoven throughout it. And I think that what this really makes me think about is like decentralizing our romantic and sexual connections is the only place that we get intimacy. Because often when we end up getting to the sex part, we're like so starved of it. Or we're actually looking for intimacy and we think that sex is the way that we need to get it. Whereas if we have more friendships where we're able to get our touch needs met, then we are more able to be in our agency when it comes to sex, because we're able to say, actually, I'm not at a like do or die kind of moment. Like if we need to say no, this isn't going to work, then I'm okay with that, and I'm not going to bypass my needs because I'm touch starved, right? We need touch. How to touch your lover? Oh, like my lovers are my friends, like as well as my sexual lovers. Like touch is so important. We do actually need it, so seek it. Even if you don't got friends like who do this, offer it to yourself. Go to touch workshops, you know. Even if you live in the arse end of nowhere, travel. There's a little cuddle party happening a couple of hours away. You get yourself there. Centralize this work as something important to you. That someone's just asked, what's the name of the festival around intimacy that's with an age limit of 40 years? It's called Embodied Love. It's not on this year though, which is sad, but it will be on next year. Would recommend that to anyone under 40. It's a cracker of a festival. They also do one for over 40s for all ages called Emergent Eros, which happens at the same place. Emergent Eros, that's in Dorset. I think the crowd isn't so cool. Not like I'm just talking generally. Like it's not very like you're it's sorry for anyone who goes to that festival who's watching. I'm sure that you're cool. But it's not as cool as the under 40s one because that's got quite a queer, like alternative crowd as well. Okay, everyone. Wow, 12 o'clock. I just have no qualms going over time, do I? I'm actually going to pause the recording. Before I do, I just want to say I'm running a day retreat in 2 weeks in the north in a place called Calderdale, which is in Yorkshire. It's an hour from Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds. So easy to get to. It's a day workshop and a temple night called Erotic Unfolding. And there'll be lots of practices and it'll be really yummy. And there's one space left for my retreat. I'm running a 5-day intimacy retreat in May. 5 days. There's one place. Who's it for? Maybe for you. But you can find all of that on my website, which is riahope.co.uk, and I will upload this. No, I'm going to stop recording. Thanks for those of you who are watching on the recording, and I'll see you in a few weeks. The next one is on the 19th of April. Hmm. Yes. Let's see about that. So see you on the 19th of April. Bye.